Welcome back to Investor Edge, simplifying smarter investing for everyone. I'm your host, Trent. Today is February 2nd, 2025. I'm going to talk about my watch list for intra-week trading for the 3rd through the 7th. I'll just go through my watch list first, and then I will take you through how I screened for these and my thought process going into them. So starting with NCLH, Norwegian Cruise Lines, last week performance up 10.4%. Why it's interesting, travel sector showed strength last week as consumer discretionary stocks rebounded. NCLH led the pack with strong performance, reflecting renewed optimism about travel demand. Continuing on, tech. We saw a lot of sell-off in AI and semiconductors. There was still some relative strength within tech. I think would get pretty interesting. So the next few, we'll go over those. Shopify, up 8.5% last week. Rallied off e-commerce strength, better than expected economic data. Doesn't have earnings until February 11th. Therefore, this week, since I don't trade into earnings, technical levels, things like that, I'll watch for volume, whether it's breakouts, breakdowns, whatever that may be. Meta Platforms finished really strong, up 6.44%. Top beneficiary of AI advancements, digital recovery, Meta's and everything, Facebook, Instagram, they make hardware, software, you name it. Company's momentum could persist, investors being on increased ad spending, post-earnings volume, is great. I think it's at all-time highs. So definitely going to be looking for plays within that range or outside of that range if volume permits. PLTR, this is going to be more of a Tuesday watch for me. Earnings are Monday. I'm expecting it to be pretty flat going into Monday. Maybe not, who knows, but I don't like to trade until earnings are out, and I'm not going to hold anything through earnings. So I have this one on here, performed well compared to other AI type stocks. So I want to see Tuesday morning post earnings. What does it look like? What is it doing? ACN, last week performance up 6.22%. Why it's interesting, rallied alongside tech, consulting firms benefiting from increased digital transformation demand, strong earnings from tech-related firms could add momentum. Again, strength within broader sector of tech where we saw some sell-off. So Apple, same concept, strength within the weakness of certain areas of tech. These types of industries move a lot, and I'm not afraid of broader, tech weakness. You want to find strength in that. My bias is still to the long side. That's why a lot of these are going to, positive gains. I'm not really looking at shorting anything too much. I will if it sets up, whether it's intraday or intra-week, but my bias prior to anything, unless information changes, right? If the trades change because of whatever, if another DeepSeek article comes out and it's taken over all the other tech, then my bias will flip. But I want to play off of strength, continued strength, looking for levels to support that bigger players would be buying into. If those levels fail, then I'm out, right? So, tight stops. Again, these are not long-term swings that I'm looking at. These are shorter time frame, longer than day trading, but shorter time frame. And why did I pick these? That's what I'm going to get into next. So continuing on, FTNT, cybersecurity, last week performance up 4.11%. Cybersecurity remains priority for corporations. Strong performance reflects solid fundamentals, increased sector demand. It moved pretty good. GE, General Electric, Industrials, up 2.5%. Doesn't sound like much. Pretty good for GE though. Might be looking for some options or something in that. Me personally. It's been rallying on renewed industrial demand, positive performance, aerospace, energy segments. GE's huge. They do a lot of big things. Industrials, things like that. It's a big American company. Definitely going to be interesting with more macro events. So continue to watch that one. I think it's back at, we'll look at it. I think that one is finally back at levels that it hasn't seen since 2008, which is pretty crazy. So could get interesting. Carnival, this ties into NCLH. Also up 8.85%, benefited strong travel leisure sector demand last week. Macro sentiment could be improving. Had a big range. Definitely like to trade some levels within that if anything sets up. IVZ, Invesco, Financials Asset Management, last week performance up 9%. Financial sector rebounded for the most part. There was a couple that did not, with rate hikes ease slightly. Could see continued upside with inflows into equities if broader market sentiment remains positive. And keynote I put on this one, highest weekly volume since December 2023. So we'll look at that on the chart. Pretty interesting, right? You want volume if you're going to be trading. KGC, Kinross Gold, last week performance up 5.5%. This one came up on mine. I don't really trade too many things around gold, but it popped up and I'm going to add it to my radar. I like to add, I'll put 12 things on watch I'll go through later on today and mark a few alerts, just not necessarily where I'm going to buy or sell or anything like that, but where they're going to be of interest potentially to me. So now let's go over and look at how I screened for these. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. If anyone would like me to do longer breakdowns, things like that, gladly. Let's see here. So Finviz, available to anyone. It's free. Make a free account. You can do a paid account, whatever you want to do. I look for market cap greater than 300 million. Really, I look for mid cap stuff, so usually I'm a little higher than that, but that's what I screened for today. Earnings revenue, both positive. I like things that are fundamentally strong and moving in the right direction. If I have a long bias, which I do because the markets are still strong and positive and trending up overall, right? We're in an uptrend and across the board, in everything. There's no real cause for concern anywhere else. Beta over 1, float over 200 million, price over $10 generally. Usually I'm even higher than that. I don't think any of these stocks are down towards $10. Return on equity greater than 5%. EPS growth quarter over quarter, positive. And growth this year, positive as well. RSI, not oversold. I just want them having, solid relative strength. Generally, I like things 50 above. So average volume over 1 million. And then from there, after I screened it, I put it to maps. I do look at it, based on, how do I do it? Performance. Yeah. Performance. Scroll down, sort it by 1 week performance, and just literally look at the top 20. I don't need to go beyond that. If I had a short bias, I would flip that, look for the ones that are weak. I probably wouldn't be shorting anything that has good fundamentals though. Positive earnings, positive return on equity, good earnings revenue. I wouldn't be shorting that kind of stuff. I have screeners to set up for short potentials, and I can get into those in another time. But yeah, I basically look at the top 20 or just slightly beyond, and I sort through them. I look at charts and things like that, and look at volume and any relative news, and I went from there. What I also look at is sector performance. So this is without my screener set on. I just looked at, I just want to show you an example of technology. While technology was down compared, overall as a week, really, the nice thing about using maps to look at this stuff is you can see that it's kind of broken into segments, right? It's not across the board, everything is just red. So when things on my screen are popping up, I want to compare them to the sector. Obviously, I'm talking about just specifically the tech stocks because that was the one that had the most reaction last week. There was a lot of big mixed bag, really, when you look at it. Again, Apple up, 6% for last week. Microsoft down 6.5%. Microsoft I can talk about might be interesting for longer term. Not going to be looking to just buy it, but most of the drag in the market for technology was semiconductors, right? And it's pretty hefty one when you have NVIDIA down 16%, loses 500 billion in market cap in a single day. So yeah, that's going to drag the overall technology sector. But there's strength within that. Shopify, right? That was one of the ones on my watch list. We had Well, Apple is one of them. FTNT was one of them. PLTR, which earnings on Monday, after hours, going to be interesting. ACN was another one. So looking at the strength within the weakness, right? Because what does this tell you by looking at that? Well, everything else is selling off. Why are these increasing? There's buyers stepping in at those levels. There's going to be reactions around those levels. I'm going to trade after I identify some of those key areas and I'm going to have a bias that bounces or feeds off of the overall trend. And the trend within those stocks and the overall is moving in the positive direction. So let's go over, I'm just going to use NCLH to look at the weekly candles. This, stock screen or the charts, I have these set up at weekly just to show you. Let me pull up my notes on the other side and I'll run through them all pretty quickly. So we have NCLH was first on our list. Yeah, pretty big range between the 25 level and 29.35. Definitely going to be curious. I'll zoom in on that. That's actually the example I'm going to use, how I set up my actual intra-week screens. I'm just showing you kind of big picture. Shopify, let's look up Shopify. Yeah, huge range, noticeably higher volume. Earnings are not until the 11th. So this could present some good areas as well for trade potential. So gonna be watching that one. Meta, yeah, just killer. It's outside of the Bollinger Band, so that tells you that there's going to be volatility, whether that's long or short. I mean, we're in an uptrend. It doesn't just mean buy it; it's going to go up. But there could be, a lot of people when they get to things like this, they're trying to guess tops, right? You're trying to pinpoint. There's going to be shorts at 720 or whatever that was. What was the high? High was, it doesn't tell me over there. What, 709, 707, whatever it was. There's going to be shorts up there. They're trying to guess that top. It could break on volume. There could be, and then you have short covering. It can continuation, right? I'm not talking about another 6% gain, but, 2, 3%, 1%, whatever. There's levels within that you can trade off of. And the reason I like it is, again, noticeably higher volume that may continue going into next week, or it could flatline. You could have a longer consolidation period. But with a range of $41, you're going to see probably a range of $20, $30 again in the next few days. So that's why you want to look for, when you're talking short-term but multi-day type trades, you still want things that have a wide range and identify levels for that. These are not swing trades. I'm talking about taking multi-week positions. If I was looking at multi-week, I'd look at a higher time frame. I'd be looking at monthly or look at quarterly, whatever. I'm talking about just top earners for last week, had a lot of strength and strong volume. So PLTR, yeah, earnings Monday after hours. So Tuesday, definitely on my watch list to be trading. I want to see what that's going to be looking like Tuesday. It could be, either way, I expect pretty big range of movement going into Tuesday. So that'll probably be one I will have a video on, day trading recap of that, I'm assuming. ACN, pretty interesting, even interesting for longer term. I wouldn't say buy and hold right now, but it's broken a level that it hasn't seen in 52 weeks basically, right? So I'm expecting some continuation if the volume comes through, or slight pullback, whatever. This is definitely going to be on my radar. Anytime something breaks 52-week highs, usually you do it again pretty quickly. It's pretty common. Again, people trying to guess tops or whatever, but approaching 52-week highs, higher relative volume, earnings aren't for a while. I don't expect much to change because there's not going to be any real news. So, you have buyers that stepped in these last 3 weeks. When are they going to start to sell? Who knows? They might sell off a little bit, but there might be new buyers right behind them, continuing to drive this up. So Apple, a little bit of a long wick. I think it was Friday. Sold off. Yeah, it was post earnings. This is a good example why I don't trade earnings. I'll trade pre-earnings. I mean, still have good earnings, but yeah, gapped and sold off, gave back pretty much everything. Do I expect that to continue? We'll see what happens. But again, overall, compared to something like, it's not technically in the same field, but it's technology, right? Big mega cap, Mag 7, whatever. We have NVIDIA here. Yeah, deep sell off compared to, and kind of holding this area, this range. Definitely want to see what that's going to do. A lot of people, might sell off continuation. It might pop up, and then, who knows? It's NVIDIA. I would never say to short NVIDIA. If you look at it, if you zoom out, right? Always zoom out when you're talking longer term. Has anything changed about earnings? No. So we'll see. That was kind of off topic, but FTNT earnings on Thursday is 6. So this is going to be my Friday play. So I'll be definitely probably having this on the list to day trade for Friday. Big range, higher volume, right? Between 93 and $1.03, so $10 range within the week on $100 stock. That could set up some good potential. It's in a really strong uptrend. We could see continuation in this, depending on what earnings looks like, or we could see a sell-off. Who knows, right? You're going to trade what you see, not what you think. GE. I just want to show you the chart of GE. Oh, it's beautiful. 2007, 2008, it's finally back at those levels. That's incredible. I didn't even realize that until I pulled it up today. Just a monster of a year, right? Or 2 years, really. But it's starting to do some really volatile stuff. It's outside the Bollinger Bands. That makes for volatility, whether it's upside or downside, whatever it may be. And it only moves 3-4% in a week, but we're talking a few bucks that could have some interesting trade ideas. Let's see, CCL kind of ties in with Norwegian. Earnings aren't for a while. Strong volume, technical. Making higher highs, higher lows. Right. Look at the lows here, low, highs, continuing to move up. Definitely going to be, again with that range, that's a 25 to nearly 30. So $5 range on a $30 stock. Yeah, also going to be interesting. Try to identify some levels and see if there's any confluence. IVZ, pretty similar, huge earnings. Was it? Yeah, pretty good. Surprised on everything. Breaking out of the, weekly levels, it's kind of chopping around in this wider range, really convincing break through the 18, quickly to 20, essentially. And we can see, there's a range here now between 1954 and 1743, so a $2 range. Not going to, say what direction it's going to go, but again, something with volume, range, outside of things that's going to present some interesting trade ideas. KGC. Let's zoom out a little bit. So, clean break of, not all-time highs, but highs it hasn't seen in years. And so this is the only one around $10 range. Well, outside the, same thing, same idea. Outside the Bollinger Bands, so we're going to see continuation. We're going to, I'm going to be looking for technical trades within that range, and to the extent of it. So let's jump over. I'm going to use NCLH as my example. Not necessarily this is my favorite, but I'm just going to use it as my example. I have it pulled up here on my chart. These are 15-minute candles. And what am I going to be looking for going into next week? So I have RSI down below, standard settings, MACD, standard settings. I have the chart turned off for extended hours. I don't care about that. I'm primarily focused on intra-week, intraday. And I use Anchored VWAPs to indicate levels that I may get involved with. So first I'm going to anchor the one off the beginning of last week because that was the point of when it started to make a huge move, right? So it went from 25-ish, we'll call it, to 52-week highs, 29.29 over a 5-day period. I have another anchored VWAP from the beginning. I'm always going to carry one from the beginning of the prior session. So come Tuesday, I'll have one on Monday following me in. And what I want to see is that level staying above, right? And I may leave the Friday one on. Are those staying convincingly above the longer time frames, confirming that this is in an uptrend? Are we making higher lows, higher highs? What I'm going to look for is like how the RSI is cooling off, and we're getting to what we call oversold, right? It's oversold on the 15-minute time frame, but on the weekly time frame or daily time frame, whatever, look at a 4-hour, it's still up, right? This is the thing with RSI. Just because it's oversold or overbought doesn't mean it's going to go down or up. So what I'm looking for is if there's going to be reactions when it approaches these types of levels, right? So this was the last time it bounced, 27.90. Anchored VWAP happens to be approaching that. So you have 2 points there, right? You see my cursor. 2 points that this makes it interesting. The one that I've anchored my level off of. What I like about anchored VWAP is it's considering 2 things, price and volume. And it's going to be changing and recompounding or computing to always come up with a new number as it goes along. A lot of algorithms and trading systems are developed based on, not just price levels, not just $27 flat or $28 flat. They're based on other metrics. There's a lot of people that use different things. There's a lot of systems that use different things. They have different algorithms for how they use them. VWAP is one of the most consistently used across the board. So, but nonetheless, it's still just a number on a screen. It's just a line on a screen. It doesn't mean anything. What I want to look for is, as you see over here, what happened when it broke this 26.49. Insanely increased volume, right? We started trading 700,000, 600,000, 2 million shares all over the course of the next hour. And now that volume is settling down, if it gets to these levels or if it reclaims, 2-day anchored VWAP or day of anchored VWAP, what is the volume profile looking like, right? Are we increasing, decreasing? What are the candles doing? I'm concerned with price action, right? I'm talking about trading. My bias is to the long side, but that doesn't mean anything, right? This could completely sell off and give it all up. Now, do I think it will? If nothing else changes in the market, then why would it, right? It might do it temporarily, and that's when you're going to look for levels of support and conviction and really react to the price action. That's what you should be focused on. So that's how I have it set up. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not saying I'm just going to wait till 29.29 breaks and buy or sell or whatever. I want to just see how the price action responds to if it approaches my levels of interest. My levels of interest are also going to be daily highs, daily lows, and even this point that it broke through, 26.55. If it happens to break through 26.50, 27, then why would it stop, right? So, and maybe that sets up a really good. If I see it gets back to the 29.29 level and sells off again, well, that might tell me over the next few days I might be looking for a short, right? We have clear conviction, clear resistance at some point. That's what I'm going to look for is where is the stock going to respond to? Because as you can see in prior weeks, from the 15th to the 21st, gapped up, grinded sideways, back into those levels, gapped up, moved a little higher, grinded sideways, gapped up, and then completely sold off to give everything back. What's going to stop that from doing that again? Who knows? So that's, again, these are just why I'm interested in these stocks, how I look at these stocks, and how I set up my particular charts. Don't get too vested in moving averages and things like that. All my moving averages, divergence, crossover type stuff, that's all taken care of with one, indicator, MACD, which there's a lot of videos on. People get very invested in a MACD. It's not the end all be all. It's it's still, at the end of the day with moving averages, is they're all lagging. They're not going to tell you where the stock's going. They're just giving you a reference, basically. Strong uptrend is what that looks like, strong downtrend, but it's not really, right? Maybe on the 15-minute, but overall, if you zoom out and again look at the 30-minute, or let's go a little longer, as it crossed over previously, it was just moving sideways and continue to hold. So when you zoom out more, everything changes, right? So it just gives you a reference point. What I'm really focused on is levels of conviction, right? That's a strong candle for a 60-minute. As we get back into that, what is it going to do? You know what I mean? That's what I want to look for, buyers to step in, look for the tape. I'll set up alerts on that. If it gets just below that, how fast does it respond? How fast does it buy up? And that's going to be your point of continuation and strength. And then we'll revisit if it happens to move higher. So at the end of the day, always, it's all about just managing your risk. You want to find levels that are of, interest to you and what you are anticipating other participants in the market to be interested in, and then managing your risk beyond that, right? I'm not going to just buy 27 and then be like, oh, I'll just put my stop down here at 25. That's just not going to work. First I want to see, buyers step in, and then what does that look like? Or maybe it breaks through with ease, retests, and continues, and now my bias might just be on hold. I might just stop and go, I'm not going to trade this. It's not doing anything that I'm thinking of doing. So, sitting back and letting the trade come to you. Anyways, I hope you liked the video. Appreciate any, response, reaction, like, subscribe, any comments if you want me to get into anything else. I'd love to break down things further. Thank you very much. Bye.